everybody. Happy 2023 to all of you. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we've got another TLD cast, first one of the year, and I'm very happy to be back. Took a little break there for the holiday season, which was good. I did everything that I could to stay away from the computer for about 2 weeks, but now we're back at it. Let me go ahead and change some of my notifications here, and so we can have lots of dedicated time for our guest today, Chrissy Flanigan. Chrissy, I actually was introduced to you because of that article that you wrote last year. I think it
Yes,
was it the spring event that we did that
it
that
was the fall
it
event.
was the fall event? Okay.
Yeah,
All right. And it was so nice of you to attend the event and I'm glad you got a ton out of it. I think that
yeah,
these things that we put together are always just wonderful. The community really comes together and does its best to produce some incredible content for everyone. And and yeah, and so now you're here, and I've got a
yeah,
bunch of questions for you. We've got that Road to L&D event coming up at the end of the month, and I thought this is a great way to kind of start it out by talking to you, who got so much out of one of our transitioning teacher events, and we've spoken already in the past, so I'm looking forward to learning more about you. So
mhm,
everybody, there is a Q&A section that I think in this new version of Crowdcast, you might see it on the right hand side. That's where I see it anyway, at least and from the admin side of things. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to add them. But right now we're going to go through, I've got about 10 or so, maybe a dozen questions that we're going to ask Chrissy about her journey in L&D. And we're going to start out with the first one. Like, when did your career in education begin?
yeah. Well, first, I wanna say thank you for having me. This is, so exciting for me to be here. Honestly, my L&D career started, like, with a TLDC event, the one in the fall, and it was so impactful for me, so to be here now is really, very cool for me. Um, my education career started, out of college, I went into PR, public relations. That's what I thought I wanted to do, and, I did that for about a year and a half until I very quickly realized I did not wanna do that anymore, and so I got my alternative, teaching certificate and became a theater teacher. I did performing arts in high school and loved that environment. It completely changed my life. And so I was a theater teacher for at a middle school for 3 years. And then for the last 5 years, I taught at a high school. I did acting classes and technical theater. And I was the manager of our campus auditorium. And then the last couple of years, I was also the fine arts department chair for our campus. So I had a lot of educational roles, directorial roles, leadership roles. And I absolutely loved my job. I loved what I did. I felt so lucky every day to be building relationships with the kids and with the parents and the community. But it was that last year we had a leadership change in my immediate team and in my administrative team. And it was a very difficult year that it taught me a lot about change management and what I value in leadership, and really kind of put me in a headspace of if I want to continue to grow professionally and personally, I'm going to need to push myself outside of my comfort zone a little bit and try something different. So I left my teaching career last May, not knowing what I was going to do. Um, I didn't even know that learning and development existed until I started literally Googling what could I do as a former teacher. Um, and I thought maybe I would go into, fine arts administration. I was in the middle of finishing up my master's in education, so I kind of spent the summer finishing up my master's, figuring out what I was gonna do, and I happened upon in my, uh, foray into the world of LinkedIn, found the TLDC, and jumped in to the conference that was going on, and at the end of that week, I was like, "This is it. This is what I want to do." So it was really kind of the first time where I felt like I knew what I was gonna do next and felt confident that I had the experience and the skills to be able to make that jump. Meanwhile, knowing very well that there were going to be some gaps that I would have to fill. While, teaching is incredibly, the skills that you have are applicable, it is a very different world. And I kind of recognized that early on. So, spent a lot of time upskilling and networking and kind of just diving headfirst into the world of L&D to kind of start that journey.
Wow. So did you finish your master's?
Yes, I finished it mid-August of last year.
Wow,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right, so it was really like you went to LinkedIn, you're like, "Hey, what's this
Yep,
free event that I'm going to sign up for?" And you got
literally.
in there and was it hard to, I mean, I don't even remember what the sessions were like for that one, but I mean, were you able to, like, what made you comfortable about the decision to move into instructional design? Like,
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that resonated with me is that it was very much geared towards teachers who are wanting to make a transition.
okay.
And I kind of discovered a little bit, oh, there's this whole career of learning and development. Well, what all does that include? And I think the conference lineup, the sessions that were included in there really answered so many questions about the world of L&D for me at like the perfect time.
Okay.
Like some of the ones where how to networking and why networking is important, or the different tools that you learn as an instructional designer. I
Yeah.
think there was a conference on all the different titles or roles that you could have in learning and development. Like truly, if
Mhm.
if anybody watching has not watched the sessions from that conference, like I cannot recommend them enough. Excuse me, because it like was a complete comprehensive overview of someone wanting to transition into that world.
That is great. I'm gonna try to grab those the link to those recordings now. I'll have
Yeah.
them up in a second. So prior to that event, you didn't know anything about L&D? You were just
No, like
uh,
I'm pretty sure I found out about learning and development as a career in like July, maybe.
wow.
Like I said, I didn't even know that it was like a career field.
Okay. Okay. Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how about this question? And this is a question that somebody had asked in one of our other success stories episode. What do you wish you would have known before starting your teaching career that may have changed your career choice?
Oh, wow. I don't know that I would have done anything differently.
Okay.
Like I said, like I felt very fortunate and very lucky to be doing what I was doing, and I loved it for such a long time. Um, I think that if I had not gone through that experience of my last year with all of that change administratively, I
Mhm.
think I would still be teaching.
Really?
Yeah, I really
Okay.
do because I loved it that much. I was in a unique position where I wasn't teaching like a core content, like I wasn't teaching science or math or something. Yes, I had teaching during the day, but a huge part of my job was as assistant director for a performing arts program. So
Mhm.
we put on productions throughout the year. That was very much an environment that I loved. But in those last couple of years of me kind of taking on more leadership roles, starting my master's in education and thinking about administrative roles or, taking on more curriculum development. I was kind of faced with this idea of and honestly going through the pandemic and stuff, I was like, I love what I do, but if I want to continue to challenge myself and honestly have like more of a work-life balance,
Mhm.
something's got to change, like something's got to give, because I would be teaching all day and then be in rehearsals all day until like 10 or 11, like year long. That was my life and I
Wow.
loved it, but I was like, if I want to continue to grow professionally, I need to pull myself out of this environment and try something new. And it was very bittersweet leaving,
Mhm.
but looking back now, I feel like it was the right decision.
Do you still maintain contact with any of the people?
I
Yeah.
do. Actually, last night I have a bunch of kids who they're in college now,
Oh
and
wow.
they came home on Christmas break, so I get to see them every now and again. They came over and we kind of just caught up on everything, and I keep up with their parents. Like I'm telling you, like I feel very blessed for the relationships that I was able to build
Mhm.
through my time there.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, how about the biggest adjustment now that you've had to make, like coming out of that world, high school faculty. Now you've moved into the world of learning and development, as an instructional designer.
Yeah.
Well, what's been the biggest adjustment so far?
One of the biggest ones was the mindset, and something a
Mm.
resource that really helped me was Kathy Moore's book, Map It,
Okay.
right? Um, as an educator, we're very much teaching for knowledge sake, like kind of like teaching to the test if you're doing standardized testing in your state, unfortunately. But in the world of like L&D, it's not, in an ideal world, it's not just knowledge for knowledge sake. You're creating training to close like a performance gap, right? It's all performance based. And so making that kind of mind shift of why you're creating curriculum, why you're developing resources was something that um, was really important for me. And honestly, I think that my specific experience as an educator of performance art, like what we were doing was focusing on performance in a different way. But a lot of like all of our assessments were very intuitive and very formative. So it the environment of a performing arts classroom is very much different than like a core content classroom. You're working
Mhm.
on like I said, like closing a performance gap in some way. So it wasn't like a huge leap for me, but that was definitely something that I had to learn to kind of wrap my head around. And when from the perspective of when you're creating curriculum and talking about like the purpose of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, so that's interesting because I've spoken to actually enough that it's memorable.
Mhm.
A lot of other theater people
Yeah.
that have moved into L&D. In fact, like, I used to work for the e-learning guild, and the co-founder of that organization was actually a theater person. She
Mm.
used to be a ballerina, and then she moved into theater and had that whole performing arts background, so that was always a part of the things that we did. Is there anything specific from that has like that you've been able to take into what you do now? Do you see any connections there?
Oh my gosh, yes. One of my I'm such an advocate of the arts. I really think that any kid needs to be in some kind of have some kind of exposure to the arts, because it gives you like, yes, you get to learn things about that specific art form, but the soft skills that it gives you for the rest of your life, it's life changing. So things like, being able to speak in publicly, or
Mm,
um adjusting, being flexible, and working with other people, and taking direction from people, and communicating, and all of these different things, I think throughout my time in that world has 100% prepared me for this. Because like even when I was a teacher, I was in some of my other suppositional roles, like I was doing fundraising and communicating with community members, and in leadership roles, working with different levels of administrators, and working with third party vendors. So dealing with budgeting and maintenance, and like wearing a million and one hats. But I
mhm.
think all of those roles have really helped me to develop a perspective that I always kind of like try to keep the full picture in mind. I think it can be really easy to kind of like have blinders on and focus on, if you're working on a project or something, you only focus on like your elements of the project and what you have to contribute. But one of the things that I really like to do is to keep the full picture in mind. So, who has touched parts of the project before me, who's going to touch parts of the project after me, and kind of developing that inclusive perspective, I think has really made an impact on the way that I work in project management and working with others and things like that.
No, that's great. That is actually really, really helpful for,
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking Kim is in the audience right now.
I know. Hi, Kim. Thank you for being so kind.
Kim saying, I bet that helps you understand client stakeholder expectations.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kim actually has a background, she's a vocalist in a choir, um, Cleveland
Awesome.
Orchestra, I think it is, Kim. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but yeah, I love that her background is in performing arts, or has a background in performing arts as well. Yeah, 4 years.
Oh,
Thank
wow. That's
you for so
amazing.
right. Yeah, no, that's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so how about mistakes that you've made? Have you made, like, as you've come into this and and gone on this path, any mistakes you've made, or anything that you'd go back and change?
Oh, man. I think one of the things, and I don't know if it was subconscious or what, I really tried to soak up as much as I could from as many people as I could, and
Mm,
you know using everybody's experience to kind of give me a greater perspective on this world of L&D, whether that be um, looking into the different kinds of resources that are out there. Like, there's so many free resources out there, so many quality resources out there. So kind of um, being able to weed through all of that stuff, I think, has been really helpful for me, and I've approached it in a way that I think has been beneficial. Um, I would say that one of the things that I felt very much at the beginning is that there were so many things out there, I kind of didn't know where to start.
yeah.
And that can feel very overwhelming when you are trying to make a career transition into a world that you kind of think you understand, but is still very different. So I just tried to, like I said, soak up as much as I could. Like, even things when I was, trying to build a portfolio, right? I would look at so many other people's portfolio and kind of take things that I myself thought, "Oh, I think that's really cool," or, "Oh, I think that's communicated really well." Always trying to have kind of, like I said, that unique perspective of trying to meet what, hiring managers would look for, while creating content that also, like, felt true to myself.
Hmm.
I think trying finding that balance of meeting expectations and communicating that I was qualified, while also, like, having my own personal voice in that process, I think,
Yeah.
was something that was, like I said, just something subconscious that I did. Um, but also, kind of giving myself, like, the space to, like, process everything new that I was learning, and
Mhm.
being willing to, like, make mistakes and just, like, jump into software that I had never done before. I think, going into this career transition, I knew that I would need to try and fail at things,
Yes.
and I think allowing myself to do that really gave me the opportunity for the greatest amount of growth.
That is great, Chrissy. I mean, you're totally going about it the right way, because I know that there are some folks that transition. I mean, you could feel pretty desperate, because you're like in a whole career change, and
Yes.
and you're like looking for answers. You might have the resources or the funds to actually, like, pay somebody a
Yes.
ridiculous amount of money to help you through this, and whether or not paying somebody is the right or wrong thing.
Right.
I'm not going to judge. I've seen a lot of these sort of bad opportunities out there available to people that are just kind of money grabs.
Yeah.
But really it's kind of, I think you've gone about it the right way. You just sort of take a look around. There's a ton of free resources. You just have
Mhm.
to put in the work,
Yeah.
right? And it really does feel like everybody's journey is kind of unique to themselves, because there are so many directions that you can take your
Yes.
career in learning and development. There's but just a bunch of different things that you can do.
Yeah.
um Anything in particular that's been a surprise to you, like
Well,
moving into that?
one of the things that Kim asked is if there were any mistakes that other teachers might have moving into L&D. And I
Mhm.
think while we're on that topic, I really think the, I don't want to, I'm trying to be PC about it, but I would say you pay attention to the resources that are out there, because I think there is a sense of like desperation when you're trying to learn all these new things that, paying a lot of money for an academy, I'll just say it, you feel like that's going to, put you a step ahead, and that's what you need to do. And I'm not gonna lie, I was looking at, academies or resources like that, and I thought that's, what I needed. But I think you just need to really take a step back and fully kind of explore everything that is out there and kind of decide for yourself, what are the things that I personally need in this transition? Like, do I need to learn new software? Okay, what are the resources out there in which I could do that? Can I do it on my own by looking at YouTube videos? Can I do it on my own by attending webinars that do like walkthroughs? Or do I need to be with some kind of support system, some kind of cohort to like help me through that process? So I think one of the biggest things I would recommend to people making this transition is really kind of evaluating like what it is that you think that you need to make this transition. Like listen to all the opinions out there, but then go back to what is it that you need and what are you willing to put in, whether that's, something financial or the time or the effort or what have you, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, I am curious. I know that that you work with Kara North.
Yes.
And
Oh,
is there like, I mean, was that is kind of Kara and her sort of archetype as an L&D professional? Is that sort of the one that you gravitated toward? You felt like, okay, that's the direction that I want to go. So she's what works for me.
yeah. Well, I connected with Kara after attending the TLDC webinar. We
Mhm.
we connected, and she um very much saw that I was trying to break into the field, that I was trying to put myself out there and network. And through the connection that we built, um, very kind of organically, she was like, she offered me, do you want to kind of come and, meet with me every now and again so we can talk through your journey? And having her a part of that transition was absolutely instrumental for me, because she, was able to provide me insight. She brought me on as a consultant for her company, which really gave me like specific client experience,
Mhm.
which was one of the gaps that, I in some of my interviews, they were like, you are fantastic and what we're looking for, but we need someone who has a little bit more of what like direct client experience.
Mhm.
And through my networking with and working with Kara, I was able to get that. So not only like working with her and like having actual, clients and projects to work on that I could talk about in my interviews, but her mentorship and her insight that she provided has absolutely been valuable. And I think the more that you spend time in this L&D community, you very quickly pick up on who is kind of not necessarily in it for the right reasons, but who has good intentions and who, is going to be a trustworthy and sustainable voice um, in this community. Like you
True.
can
Yeah.
recognize the good ones and the ones who are kind of just there to like offer their unsolicited advice, if you will.
Right, right. No, and I do think like I'm not sure exactly how I would kind of categorize Kara's sort of I guess bubble or her where she's at, but I know that if you were somebody that was more technical focus or somebody that you maybe you have like more of a dev tendency,
Mhm.
you want to build stuff, then find that person,
Exactly.
and go that direction. Or if you're somebody that is more focused on on writing,
Right.
then that would be something like hit up Kim,
Yeah.
like just
Oh,
reach
yeah.
out and have conversations with Kim and talk about like what is your career like, and do
Yeah.
you have any guidance, and they're all out there. And I do know that yeah, it can be just completely overwhelming how much
Yeah.
there is out there. In fact, personally, I don't even like to look because I start to get freaked out when I see how
Yeah.
much there is out there. I tend to stay away from LinkedIn just because I get overwhelmed by anything. So now that you're actually in L&D, anything
Yeah.
surprising about it?
Coming from education, the amount of resources that, like, the corporate world has is insane. Like, like, honestly, in education, we're, like, scraping the bottom of the barrel and, in the corporate world, they're like, "What do you need?" "Oh, you got it. Great." Um, I will say one of the other most surprising things, it was the timeline of, just different projects, the the collaborative nature, but also, um, how do I say this? I feel like in in teaching, you wear a bunch of different hats, and you kind of essentially have to do it all. When you're moving into something like L&D, you, I think in a lot of ways, pick a specialty. So, to put it in to, like, equate it, if I were in L&D in, like, a teaching environment, I would be doing all of the things. I would be the SME, I would be the instructional designer, I would be the LMS administrator, like, I would be the project like, I would be doing all of the things, and I think what's been really refreshing and really nice is that I don't have to do all of those things. I
Mhm.
can kind of focus on my um, specific role and dedicate my time and my expertise to that and let, the other people who are experts in what they do contribute in their own way. And that's been very foreign, but a very welcome new environment.
Right, right. I do have to say though, there are situations where
Yeah, yeah,
there are people that still have to do everything,
yeah,
and somehow manage it too,
yeah,
like yeah, and just it's amazing like how because I actually work in an environment where everyone has specific roles, and
mhm,
that took me a while to adjust to because I was kind of one of the where wear a bunch of different hats type of person. But it is nice to just focus on the one thing that you're really good
yeah,
at and do that. So I think that that can be really really ideal. I got just a couple more questions for you, then we got to wrap it up.
yeah.
So currently now, how are you staying on top of your professional development?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, Honestly, through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Like, eh, I now that I've moved into, like, a full-time position, like, in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, I'm not done." Like, there are still so many things that I want to learn and I want to explore and people that I wanna continue to connect with, so, um, making it a priority to, like, stay up to date with, the different communities that I'm a part of and keeping a pulse on the L&D world and kind of what's happening and what people are talking about, and
Yeah.
really just making a point to carve out the time in your schedule to attend, um, conferences and connect with people and, maintain those relationships. I think it when you're kind of going through the whole process of discovering L&D and going through the job process, you feel like there's all this stuff that you are working towards getting a job. And okay, but now once you have the job, like, yeah, you're working and you've achieved your goal, but what's your next goal? Like, what's the next thing that you want to work on? Like, I by no means consider myself an expert. I'm the first one to admit that I'm a lifelong learner. There are things that I'm always going to want to learn. So
Mhm.
I think really trying to make it a priority to continue to stay a part of the community, and honestly to give back. So showing up today and sharing my story, if anything that I say or any part of my experience can resonate with someone who was going through the same thing that I just went to, like, that's something that I'm really passionate about. And I think I get that from Kara because she's very passionate about that too. Like, she really enjoys the process of, like, helping teachers specifically
Mhm.
come into the world of L&D. And she was the one who told me, she said, many years ago, someone took a chance on me, and I want to pay that forward. So, at some point in my career, if I'm able to take a chance on someone else, I think, oh, that'll just become like full circle.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
highly recommend everybody connect with Chrissy on LinkedIn. And I just last question, because this one's important to me. How
Yeah.
are you going to continue to nurture your passion for the performing arts?
Oh, I love that question. Well, I'm going to the musical in January. They put on at the end of January. They put on my old job. They put on a musical every year.
Mhm.
Um, but I am also a part of, or still kind of connected to the world of um, making sure that arts stay in schools, and districts have funding for that. So I'm a part of some organizations that kind of work with our state funding for arts programs. Because, like I said, that it's really important for me that always be an option for kids to um, stay in those programs. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, keep doing it because the kids need you. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
no, it's important. It really
Yeah.
is. So, all right, Chrissy, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Oops, I'm going to grab that link to the event and drop it into chat. So if anybody wants to check out the recordings for that transitioning to L&D event that we had this last fall, they're in the chat now. And there you go. Kim is saying it's important for the kids and our whole society. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's major. And Chrissy, so if you're somebody that is passionate about that as well, keep nurturing it, because I know with my son, I want him to get into the performing arts, and
Yes.
he could use somebody like you in his life. So
Well,
so keep it going. All right, that's it for today. Thanks everybody for joining. Love to be back here in 2023, continuing to do TLD casts. If any of you have any desire whatsoever to come onto a broadcast, let me know. I haven't set a schedule yet. I've been so busy trying to build events, but would love to have you on. I'll probably be reaching out to the membership to to uh, to try to get more guests on for the future weeks and months. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thanks, everybody. Have a